Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Will.
And I'm Ivan.
And we're already back for more Traitors as we begin our review of Series 3 on the Traitors US. Welcome to episode 42 of It's Just a Game.
Will it ever end?
Hello and welcome to episode 42 of It's Just a Game, the podcast where we watch reality TV so you don't have to. This is the podcast where we review the best strategies, the maddest moves, and the craziest drama of your favorite reality TV shows. This week, The King is Dead, Long Live the King. We're back for more of The Traitors as we review episodes 1 to 5 on The Traitors US. My name is Ryan, and I am Fergus's #1 fan. Love you, Fergus. Joining me here today, as always, is Wilfred from The Traitors. Hello, Wilfred. How are you?
When have you ever used my full name? Ever?
What's going on? Your legal name.
I'm okay. I'm good. I've sort of rewatched some clips back from episodes 1 to 5 that we're talking about just to refresh me. But I know that Ivan's going to do a refresher, I think, isn't he?
Ivan's going to do a refresher, or rather, should I call him Ivan Red from The Traitors? Hello, Ivan Red. How are you?
Why Ivan Red?
Because Wilfred and Ivan Red.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I leave you on Red. Okay, are we doing this? I'm well.
Fucking, that was sick.
I have to say, I'm glad to be back. I did not think that I was going to enjoy this US season. We're 5 episodes in. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Now, as always, we are entering a spoiler zone. So if you have seen episodes 1 to 5 of The Traitors US, you can stay right there. If you have not, there will be spoilers ahead. And if you don't care about that, because this is a podcast where we watch reality TV, so you don't have to. And let me tell you, the series, you really don't have to. Trust me, you just don't have to.
No, Ryan, stop it!
It's really good. I'm really liking it. So, Brian, you're on your own, bro.
Okay, this is why this is going to be an interesting episode.
We'll talk about it. Actually, I love the twist and I love a lot of the production. I'm just not a fan of a lot of the cast. But let's talk about it in a second. First, Ivan is here to summarize everything you've missed between episodes 1 and 5. Ivan, you're good to go.
All right, strap in, chums, because it's 5 episodes and I've only got so much voice. Episode 1. A bunch of loud Americans arrive at the castle. They bring baggage from other shows, which we have to quickly catch up on. Instantly, they may bring Survivor All-Star Bolton Rob into the game at the expense of another player. Nobody takes the bait, so Rob is exiled. That's in inverted commas, you can't see that. The remaining Survivor players terrify everyone with their gameplay. Danielle, Carolyn, and Bob the Drag Queen are picked to be traitors. Fergus rings a bell. It's the big rowing boat Stop on Islands mission. They're probably worse at rowing than the UK bunch, which is saying a lot. Traitors Bob and Danielle step onto a raft together, unaware, and then pretend to be furious when they get back. The traitors meet, and we see Boston Rob in the forest, of course he's back, where Alan makes him a traitor. Gasp. Episode 2. 2 other big white guys enter cages to join Rob for the forest vending machine mission. But first, the traitors deliberate between 20 different housewives, but choose to murder. I literally didn't even put the person. Is it Dorinda? Yeah, it's Dorinda who's murdered, and 2 traitors cry. Tom, from a show called Vanderpump Rules, is sweating profusely. Nevertheless, none of the traitors are under suspicion. Unlike the UK show, all 3 caged players will enter the game because they're celebrities and they can't fly them to the UK without putting them in the game. But the question is, how many shields they can release in time. Also, Alan has a dog! In a packed round table, Bob accuses Wells, while Danielle goes for Robin. The traitors get 0 combined votes in a very split field, but it's faithful Wells with just 5 votes who gets the boot. But Bolton Efron, who's Zac's brother, notices it was Bob who started the ball rolling on Wells. Trouble? Episode 3, we're almost halfway there. Episode 3, at breakfast, Danielle's babble is a bit self-implicating. Ayan is murdered, another housewife, continuing the housewife slaughter. Jeremy is onto Danielle because she's been playing loose, doesn't care for shields, cries at breakfast, and so on. Bob and Carolyn let her know she's in danger. Traitor teamwork. We'll definitely see more of that in the future. Spoilers, we won't. Meanwhile, Dylan suspects Bob the Drag Queen because he started fires, then sat back and watched them burn. At the round table, Bob H., not the Drag Queen, accuses Tony Vlachos from Survivor because he'd make a good one, bad, and everyone jumps on the back of this theory. He's banished, accusing Boston Rob of being a sellout, bro. The traitors must MIPS, murder in plain sight, and meet in the wine cellar armory to write 3 names in a scroll and hide it in a coffin. But Bachelorette Gabby catches Danielle and Carolyn leaving the room. Is this just editing, or has she really caught them? Episode 4, it's editing! missing! Dylan investigates the wine cellar, getting perilously close to finding the tiny coffin, but doesn't. But he says something has changed. Creepy. Outside, Jeremy, Nikki, and Sierra are picked to lie in coffins. Jeremy, interesting, let's talk about this later, offers to work with the traitors if they keep him. They don't. The gang goes to bed and the traitors return to murder Jeremy. At breakfast, Gabby reveals she heard Danielle too. But Danielle quickly says she and Dylan went in, muddying the water. Could have been open and closed, ends up not being a clue. Carolyn is so upset. Nikki Bella from wrestling says she heard 2 or 3 traitors and one had light feet. Bob the drag queen continues to give away too much in every social situation. The mission is the Statue Dickheads Hill. Bob calls out publicly that one of the 3 new boys must be a traitor, angering Rob. He instantly commits to taking out Bob. This is war. He puts together a Survivor-style alliance, but Danielle wants Nikki to go to implicate Sierra. At the round table, when Nikki v Sierra dominates, Rob takes it on himself to launch the attack on Bob. He swears to God he isn't a traitor. It turns into a shouting match between the 2 Titan traitors. Bob is banished beautifully. Alliteration, did you hear it? But not before dropping Rob as a parting gift. And while Rob is hailed as a hero, Wes, who's ginger, remarks that only one person who 100% knows a traitor is a traitor. I can't believe I'm still talking. Episode 5, Bolton Rob threatens the traitors. I won't come for you unless you come for me. Carolyn thinks taking out Bob was an ego thing. Robin, who's a housewife, I guess, is murdered. Rob finds out there's Rob, Bob, and Robin. Stop! Right, anyway, sorry. Rob tries to 100% Carolyn, who instead 100%'s Danielle. Now Danielle wants to take out Carolyn. It's so early for the traitors to fall apart, but here we are, episode 5, and it's absolutely fallen apart. The mission is a riddle-solving portrait place. Danielle implicates herself by giving away shields again. Then, in the car home, she tries to sell out Carolyn. Chriselle suspects her Bambi mate, Nikki Bella, from the wrestling. At the round table, Ivor Mountbatten, who is like a royal, starts working on Rob. Sierra, under suspicion since the coffin, defends herself by attacking the other coffin goer, Nikki Bella from the wrestling. Chriselle, who maybe is a housemate, no, a housewife, speaks out against her friend Nikki to put the final nail in the house, in the coffin. She's banished almost unanimously. The remaining Bambis are distraught. Dylan reveals to Carolyn that Danielle is campaigning against her. It's a 3-way traitor split, and I need a drink.
Hello and welcome to episode 48 of It's Just a Game.
Can I just applaud Ivan for his descriptive, what would you call him? The descriptive words of each player.
Yeah.
And Nikki from wrestling.
Yeah. They call her Nikki Garcia, but it's not Nikki Garcia, it's Nikki Bella. It's Nikki Bella. She married John Cena. We know it's Nikki Bella. Come on, wrestling men. We know this.
You missed an opportunity to call Bob by the name of the show he was actually on, because that's the funniest part about Bob. Bob was on The Biggest Loser.
Bob the Biggest Loser. Well, it's Bob H, isn't it?
Bob the Biggest Loser.
But was he a loser or was he a coach? He was a coach, wasn't he?
No, he was a coach.
Okay, all right.
And for those who don't know what the concept is of The Biggest Loser, it's probably the most stupid things the American have ever come up with, and that's a competitive field. It was a show where people would try to lose weight, and every week the person eliminated was the person who lost the least weight.
Now, do you remember the UK version and what it was called?
Fat Club, wasn't it? Or something like that.
It was called Fat Camp. And they changed it from Fat Camp to Fit Camp.
The producers were like, look, we're under criticism, we've got to do something. And someone just like, okay, I've got it. 1 letter.
Haven't you seen that other one?
Yeah, where he just a random guy going around insulting people every time walking down the street.
Yeah, what was that called? And it was called like...
Oh, the one like, welcome to Fat Fatties.
Yeah, something, yeah. And there's a woman who's going, can you get me the bag of discos? No, the whole 10 bag, please. And he's like, would you eat all of them, would you? Like, and just insults them in their own home.
But the mad thing is, it wasn't even that long ago. TV was so different 15, 20 years ago that was not even like accepted, but celebrated. It's crazy. Anyway, should we talk about that for an hour?
We will talk about the olden days of Channel 4 another day, but for now, let's get back to the traitors. Let's skip the usual beginning part where they do the little car ride and everyone pretends they don't want to be a traitor. They love to be faithful and nobody's buying it. Bullshit. We've been over this. Let's move on. The really interesting part for me is really early on. A little twist. They show up and they get offered, do you want to take Bolton Rob? Get Bolton Rob in the game. Yes, he's a great player, but do you want to take him in? Or don't take him out. I don't know. I'm going to ask you, what would you have done? Because I'm torn between the idea that he is a dangerous player, and anyone who vaguely knows about reality TV, I've never watched him, but I know the name. I know Bolton Rob is a threat. You probably don't want him as an extra competitor in the game. But equally, it's a great opportunity to get rid of someone. Will?
First of all, I know 0 people apart from the wrestler. I don't really know anybody that's there. So for me, it's been quite nice watching it blind to these people and seeing the shows they come from and see how that impacts the way they play the game. So yeah, hearing that he was on Survivor and won multiple times, and his demeanor, you know, like when he stood there, he was scary. I would have thought to myself, do you know what? He's going to come back anyway, because we all know there's no way to be, you can only be banished or murdered. So he's going to come back. So take it as an opportunity to try and get rid of somebody else who's just as strong. That's what I think I would have done in that situation.
I think Bolton Rob is known for being ruthless. He's played, I think, 5 seasons of Survivor. I think he's only won 1 of the seasons of Survivor, but he's dominated the ones he's been in. He started as a young villain who just totally disrupted an entire tribe. He brought him back and he became this kind of hero. He started a relationship with somebody because he thought it would be a tactical advantage, ended up actually falling in love with this person during Survivor. I think her name was Amber. He's done amazing things. He's developed strategies so strong that people use them and talk about him even on a series he's not on. But the thing he does so well is a mixture between intimidation and sort of gangland tactics and incredibly effective social maneuvering, so that everyone thinks you're on his side. Everyone thinks he's that charismatic kind of guy who everyone thinks that if you please him, the best thing in the world is happening. You know, you've met people like this. I think even Wilf, like sometimes you're like this, right? All you want to do is make Wilf laugh because there's something about a charismatic person that's just like, oh, I made Bolton Rob laugh. That's amazing. And I think what was interesting about this was people didn't want to put him in because as soon as he's in the game, he is the number 1 most powerful asset in this game. Not just because he brings with him this knowledge that he can do those things, but also he immediately started doing those things. It didn't take Bolton Rob long before he was like, Bob mentioned my name amongst 3 people. He's gone. And guess what? That night he was. So I think taking Rob onto the show and getting rid of someone else does 2 things. 1, it puts Bolton Rob in the show, which means he might win it. And 2, you've immediately shown your cutthroat. And while this is before traitors were actually given out, so therefore it couldn't be used against you as I think you're a traitor because whatever, we know that in this show people use stupid reasons such as, well, if you got rid of Sierra so easily, then you would get rid of me. I think you could be strong enough to be a traitor. I think you keep your head down and you just let Bolton Rob go home. Now, in this case, as we know, they could never send him home. They paid him too much to come over to the UK. He was going to come back later anyway. But I think the strategy here is just don't stand out at that point.
We'll talk about Bolton Rob's mad moves in a little bit, but I guess you raised a point about why maybe the twist fell a little bit flat for me, which is the idea that they all knew, they flew him over to Scotland, he's actually going to be back. And they didn't even wait. They got him back like 12 hours later. At least if you get somebody in 3-4 days later, it really affects the dynamics of the game and the dynamics of him coming in as a late comer who doesn't have the alliances that others might have built in the meantime. So for me, that felt kind of flat. It was just a weird attempt at shoehorning Rob as a traitor. I don't know.
They should have made Bolton Rob come in episode 4 or 5, right?
Yeah.
The reason being because then they've had to suffer worse because he's just got to walk in a lot later. So do you know what I mean? So because they said no to him, they're like, well, you're going to suffer now because we're going to bring him back and he doesn't even have to play the first half of the game.
Yeah, so build up some antipathy and some Yeah,
and it's like their fault that he came in later on and didn't even have to play the first 4 days or 5 days. But because they brought him back so quickly, it was like, it didn't feel like a punishment enough for them.
I think the other thing that happened by doing this is they kind of built in a class system where it's like, oh, you're all celebrities, but he's the celebrity. And like for me, I was most excited about seeing him because I know his gameplay so well and it's fantastic. But also the fact that when he came back, he came in with this, even in the cage, he came out with this, oh, Rob's here. Like it gives everyone this thing about he's this first class citizen. And I think in a way, weirdly, that's why he's got away so long without being accused of being a traitor. Because obviously he's a traitor, but also he's Bolton Rob. And so like they did quite well in the end doing that and bringing him aside and saying, oh, he's different from everyone else, gave him a chance to play this game. I think.
Well, they should have this like thing where they have like people who live on the top floor, and they're like the powerful people.
The rulers. It's called them the rulers.
Yeah, let's call
A
them
lift
rulers.
maybe between that and yeah.
And then people can maybe like, I don't know, like ascend and descend.
They should call it ascend and descend. Yeah.
I'm not sure that doesn't work. Maybe they go to the top and they go to the bottom. No, they rise and they fall. Rise and fall. That's the one.
Yeah, that's a great
Tell you
name.
what would be a good format point would be if the people they send home first come back and are in the final. Because that did happen in both shows.
Yeah, I feel like Channel 4 would buy that. Let's write to them.
To be fair, I don't know if Bolton Rob reaches the final. It doesn't look like he will, but yeah.
I mean, we'll have predictions in a moment, but let's go back then to the Traitors picks generally. First round table, Alan walks around, he taps people on the shoulders. And you know what? I love this pick. It's a great range. You've got Carolyn, which is really, really interesting. She's a very interesting and slightly new Survivor player. You've got Daniel, who's also like, I feel like the way she approaches the game is also quite different. She approaches in a more Big Brother sort of way, which is very different from Survivor and the Traitors. And you've got Bob, who's just adding so much color and so much fun to this Traitor pick. I loved it. And I love, most importantly, we're not getting another one of these housewives. It's always like, we don't have a minimum like mandatory housewife in every Traitor pick. And I'm very pleased with that. We get the players, we get the fun, we get the excitement. Yes, Alan.
They've knocked it out of the park with these three, and actually these four with Rob as well. And more than, I mean, apart from a couple of seasons we've seen Australia Series 2, this is focusing on the Traitors entirely. Like, I know that Dylan Efron gets a bit of screen time, the occasional other person gets a line or two. This show, up to this point, and we've seen up to episode 5, is absolutely, fundamentally, without any equivocation, all about the Traitors. They do not care about the rest of the cast, and I think that's why you're getting the impression, Ryan, maybe rightfully so, that the rest of the cast are just NPCs, and that the players, the player characters, are these Traitors. And they're great. Carolyn Weiger, amazing again from Survivor, incredible character. And her story's amazing. Like, she used to be a drug addict. She's now like an advocate for a sober life. She's absolutely amazing. Nice. She's an incredible person. Played an amazing game in Survivor 43, I think. But it's a really great dynamic. And the fact that it breaks apart so soon, and you have Bob the drag queen, who is just one of the most incredible people, inspiring, amazing, hilarious, and plays the game with his entire body and soul from episode 1. This is amazing, but it leaves no oxygen in the room for the faithfuls, which fine, I guess, because we've just seen a really faithful, heavy show, UK season 3.
Personally, I really like the Traitors. I think I would have wanted somebody who doesn't know how to play the game be a traitor, because it's just amazing to watch. So I'd love the housewife from Dubai. What was her name?
Ayan,
yeah.
Oh, can I tell you the funniest thing?
Go on.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Okay, I ended an exit. Hold that thought. I ended an exit interview with some guy, right? And she was really confused because she was like, I thought all these survivors were like survivors of some terrible disease.
I didn't realize it was a show.
I didn't realize it was a TV show.
That's so funny.
And maybe that proves my point about them not being the best faithfuls.
No, but I would have loved to see somebody like that as a traitor who doesn't really know anything about the show, really. Nothing about anybody else's show, clearly. Mate, can I just say one thing? I just have to jump in and say it. Like, did you spot, is it Brittany's ex?
Oh, yeah, Sam.
Dripping with sweat.
Yeah.
The biggest armpit sweat. He was sweating so
It was
bad.
literally in my recap. It was so important. Vanderpump, Tom from Vanderpump Rules was just sweating like he was wearing a disguise. It was so crazy.
Have you ever seen like a sweating cartoon character? He's like that all the time.
And he wasn't even a traitor. Why has he been sweating?
Yeah, it was warm in that room.
But yeah, one aspect from the sort of traitors pick we've discussed is that disconnect from the traitors. It really grows, but it grows quite fast and quite early on. There's just this, they all hate each other's guts. There's a permanent tension where they're just like, all so jumpy at the idea that one of them will throw them under the bus, and it's all about who's going to fire the first bullet. They're all like not moving mad, but all ready to move mad at the first sign that somebody might be going for them.
It's Sideshow Bob, not Sideshow Bob, fucking Boston Rob.
Boston Rob.
Boston Rob, the OTP I've always wanted to see. Bob's in this one.
Was enough.
What's his name? Boston Rob, right?
Bob the Builder, yeah.
Yeah, Boston Rob.
Boston the Builder, yeah.
He created that dynamic though when he came in to be a traitor, and he created that weird dynamic because I think they were all right at the beginning with Bob and is it Danielle and
I think you mean Bolton Rob, yeah.
Bolton Rob, yeah.
That's what Bob. That's what not. I've got his name now as well. That's what Rob does. Like, did you used to read the comic Asterix and Obelix?
Yeah, the Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's one book of
They
that.
weren't Vikings. They were literally like, no, respect my culture.
They were Gauls. They were not Vikings.
They're my people.
Sorry, my bad.
There was one book where they like had to accompany some guy from one side of the country to another, and he had like this weird power where people just got in really big arguments when he was around, and like you could see they had these like terrible their speech bubbles like changed color, and they got in these ridiculous rows, and I was really entranced by this. Like, what is this person's effect that him just being there quietly sitting in the corner of the room made them have these like horrible flat out rows? And I feel like Boston Rob's a bit like that. It's just like his presence just makes people like switch up the tension. It's kind of mad.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's quite impressive, but it begs the question. It's like a powder keg, and because of that, I generally think by the time, maybe by episode 8, we might lose every single one of the initial traitors.
Yeah.
I don't think any one of them has got a chance of making it to the end.
No, I don't think so either.
I can imagine one of Danielle or Carolyn lasting, but Danielle has played so loose that if they don't get rid of her, I'll be so unimpressed. Carolyn, of those 3 remaining, Carolyn is the one who I could be like, I can see that happening. Just because she's so inexplicable, like the way that she's like, hey, Bob the drag queen. Like she kind of just like wangles around the place. She's brilliant.
That's the funny thing about Carolyn. If it was in the UK, we'd all go like, oh, what the fuck? She's definitely a traitor. But because everyone in the US is just in this cast already baseline of like a little bit weird, she just appears like, oh yeah, it's just Carolyn.
This is what makes me laugh so much, right? You know when you get like the sheet and it has what everybody does or where they're from, like Survivor, Big Brother. Then you've got Zac Efron's brother.
No, sometimes it says he's from something else. I swear, sometimes it says he's like something like Stardust, or it's like some other show that no one's ever heard of. It's like his YouTube series or something. Oh, the best line. In fact, the second best line, but they came in 10 minutes with each other when he's arguing with Bob the drag queen, and he's like, "I grew up with an actor," and Bob's like, "Not a good one."
Oh my god, yes,
it was so good.
Honestly, Bob
was so good. I fucking miss him. You know, he was like my favorite just because.
Yeah.
Do you remember we talked last episode? I think it was last episode about that whole shouting over everyone to try and get your point across.
He's doing that.
He was just doing that the whole time and throwing shade. He was so witty at throwing shade at people.
He was incredible. You could tell like he was improvising as well. Like these weren't like pre-written punchlines, and that's what I love about him.
If you've seen a series of RuPaul's Drag Race, you know that like one of the fundamental skills is reading, right? Reading someone to filth is absolutely what you do, because reading is what? Fundamental, right? You have to do it. And being sardonic and funny and like, but sour-faced and witty about it is how you survive as a drag queen. And that's why Bob was so good in this show. We need players like this. They're not going to last to the end, but they're going to make the early episodes entertaining, which is really hard to do.
Well, you know what? Let's do it then. I feel like I was always going to give him that. Let's give Bob the singular clap that is well-deserved. Bob deserved that singular clap for 2 reasons. 1, the punchlines, and 2, the outfits. Oh my God, the incredible outfits. I feel like it should be double clap.
Yeah, double clap for Bob. Yeah, here we go.
Double clap for Bob. Here we go.
Wow. People have often asked me, "Oh, Ivan, the only good thing you did in the entire show was a funny last line. Did you come up with it on the spot?" I was like, no. I had 20 minutes when I knew I was going home. I could feel on the table this was it. I knew I was going to go home. And even if I wasn't, it was going to be within 1 vote. So I was like, I have to do something here. I have to have some line so that I can do something before I leave this show too early. And when Bob got up on that little circle and delivered that, "I swear to God, but I don't believe in God." It was so perfect. Without doubt, the best leaving line of any Traitors, Banishment, so far globally. Can you doubt that?
Oh, no.
Yours is bad.
No. I wouldn't go that far.
I adored it.
Kaz, the twinkle in the eye, that was on my card. I'm
Twinkle
sorry.
in the Eye didn't even win your series vote. You said it was Freddie with the gentle parting gift. Okay, whatever. Anyway, I think it was fantastic. I adored it. When he did that with the screaming, I swear to God, I was like...
That was sensational.
Yeah, words cannot describe how impressed I was with that.
No, honestly, Bob, thank you for your service. Let's take a step back then and talk about how Bob's downfall came about, because Rob, what the hell, Rob?
Yeah.
Honestly, Bob makes the tiniest comment about, like, oh, maybe one of the people, put their head up as a traitor. And Rob goes into overdrive straight away. I mean, you can tell he sort of panics there a bit, but he gets hyper aggressive about it. And in doing so, he just says the most stupid things, which is, if he's a traitor, vote me out tomorrow. And Wes says quite rightly, like, you only know somebody's 100% a traitor if you're a traitor. So I feel like great, fascinating move for entertainment purposes, but tactically, is it actually a really big mistake by Rob? Will?
The way he was able to go around and completely manipulate and socially make people accept this idea that Bob can be a drag queen and a drag queen. Sorry, Bob can be a traitor.
I think Bob might be a drag queen.
I think that might be, there's only one way to find out. Bob, please stand up and reveal if you're a drag queen.
I swear to God, I'm not a drag queen.
But I don't believe in God.
But yeah, the way he did that was amazing. And the thing is, there's always that defense.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of Ivan sitting up saying, that was on my wig. I'm a drag queen.
I'm a drag queen.
But there's a way, right, where you can always go back to that defense going, if I was a traitor, why would I go so hard, and then get rid of someone, and then you're going to think it's me?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's you. I feel like some people do think it's him. I don't know. Ivan, did he move too mad?
I think he did. I think he moved like a Survivor move where it's like, okay, I have to this person's a threat to my game, so I'm now going to rustle up numbers to get the vote out.
Yeah, that's very Survivor, yeah.
It was so Survivor, pulling people aside. And every time he did it, he gave Bob a different name, like Drag Queen Bob, Bob the Queen. Like each time it was different. It was kind of hilarious. Watching him play was kind of mad because, yeah, you were going like, he's playing Survivor in the Traitors. And we've seen this before with Survivor players as well. It's all about majorities. And I went into our series thinking we were going to have to work on majorities. And in the end, we didn't really need to, or at least not when I was in the game. But yeah, I think he did. I think Wes was right to pick up that thing about like the only way 100% someone's a traitor, the only reason you'd go so big, the only time you'd actually put your entire game behind getting someone out is if you knew you'd get the win at the end. And he did get the win at the end, but at what cost? The only thing I can think is that if he had managed to escape suspicion and get rid of Bob, he could say to Carolyn and Danielle, who he probably didn't trust either of them, don't come for me. This is what will happen. And so actually it may have been a warding off thing of like, all right, fine, but like, don't. He probably really would, if he didn't do that, one of them would have got him. He would have known he was close to being banished anyway and thought, all I'm going to do is do my mobster thing of scaring people out.
When we played the game or other people play the game, when somebody walks in and says, can I have a quick word with you? And pulls someone out, that becomes like a thing. With Bolton Rob, he just goes in and goes, can we have a word? And takes them out. And everyone's scared to even, because they know he's just doing his thing. And that's what he does. It's such a powerful thing to be able to go into a room and go, I'm taking you with me to have a chat. And nobody says anything about it. Everyone's just like, oh, okay.
He pulls the two other traitors out of a room to have a traitor chat and no one questions it.
Yeah, mad.
It's mad. I love it.
Just fucking nuts, bro. I didn't even speak to Amanda in the castle once, ever, apart from Amos, to get rid of Amos. I'm not lying, bro. I swear on my life, I never talked to her. Probably had 2 conversations with Amanda whilst the Faithfuls were about. And Alyssa, only during the mission where me and her were on the same team and we were looking for Meryl.
But you know what? In this series this year, they spend so much time having like just traitors chats. And to be fair, like, yeah, just do this. I'm not sure there's any particular reason to get concerned because everyone's always having a chat with everyone. So like,
I mean, yeah, the MIPS part was fascinating though, because they all met up in the wine cellar and like, it looked...
The MIPS, for the people who don't speak weird abbreviations, is Murder in Plain Sight, yes.
I explained that in my synopsis. Oh, you're not saying people skip the synopsis, Ryan. Come on. No one skips the synopsis, do they? No, listen, hey, you, Edgar, I know you skipped the synopsis.
Fuck you, Edgar.
Fuck you, Edgar. Who the hell is Edgar anyway?
Who the hell is Edgar?
In the MIPS part, when they're all in the wine cellar, and then what's her name comes out, and she thinks she sees it, and it's all editing, and actually she doesn't really see it at all, and it's kind of weird. I've noticed that quite a lot in this show. Actually, the US version seems really bad for this. Whenever you're talking about someone, they're like walking past, but having been in the castle, I know
It doesn't make sense. The room's not there.
Yeah. Someone's like looking in the direction. You're like, well, they be in the same place right now, but it's a different camera angle.
We all know they're actually all upstairs in their rooms in the castle, where there's definitely rooms.
Going to definite bed.
Going to definite bed.
I have something to bring up. Can I bring up a thing, please?
I don't know. Can you? Is your name on the signs on the podcast? Actually, it is. Yes,
Ivar, yeah.
Ivor, exactly. I am Ivor Mountbatten.
Ivor the drag queen.
I've walked past the Mountbatten house, because my partner's family lives in Romsey, where the Mountbattens come from.
I thought you were going to say your partner's family lives in Mountbatten House.
Partner's family is the Mountbattens. We walk past it all the time. The Mountbattens are like local celebs there. They know all the ins and outs. It's like EastEnders, but for rich people. That's not what I was going to say. Jeremy, right? When he's lying in the coffin, says one of the most fascinating things ever. He says, "Traitors, if you're listening, save me and I can work with you." And I loved it. I was so sad they murdered him, because I was like, yes, absolutely. We all wanted to work with the traitors. Tom said as much. I was trying to do the same. Working with the traitors is an amazing strategy, and coming out with it in that open way is like...
But you can't say that.
You can't win, obviously, but like...
You can't say it outright.
It was like when Tom was in the car between me and Alyssa, going, "I know there's a traitor here. Be selfish." Like, and it was this car journey went on for half an hour, by the way. Literally, Tom going on one of Tom's fucking mad expeditions in his brain. He's going, "We can work together." Blah de blah. And I was just sitting there going, "What you think?" Like, I didn't know how to respond. And Alyssa started nodding and stuff, and he just knew. I could tell it. He knew it was Alyssa, but I didn't know it was me at the time. And I remember feeling so awkward. Like, and then this is a little sneaky thing. I remember Amos come up to me, right? They never got shown. And it was when we got dressed for something. We got dressed up for something. The party, remember when he got kissed? Mm-hmm. It was before that we got dressed, and he come up to me and goes, "Will, if you're a traitor, I'll back you and I'll support you." He said that to me, and it was never shown. We were mic'd up and everything, but they decided not to show it. And I was just like, yeah, well, fuck you, man. I can't work. When a faithful says they want to work with you, you get scared.
As you should be, because they will throw you into the bus. That's the key part of the strategy.
But it might mean you last for longer, because at least people are going to think you are a traitor. I mean, I really like it as a last gasp strategy, because it puts the traitors in a position where they're not ahead of the game. Just like you just said there, Will. You're like, hang on. What does he know? I really like it. It probably almost certainly leads to murder, as in this case it did, and with you it did, and every other time, yeah, absolutely. When you feel threatened, you maybe murder that person, especially if they haven't said it to everyone. But he said it to everyone. He said, "Traitors, I'll work with you." I just love it.
But that's the thing. That strategy leads to murder, or inevitably leads to banishment, unless you that's why I think it's going to be a last resort strategy. You need to be targeting the right person, because if you're targeting the wrong person, sooner or later they're going to come to you and be like, "You've been so desperate to become a traitor. What if they've recruited you?" First recruitment, I feel like your name's going to be on people's lips. You're going to be a suspect.
Definitely.
I don't think you can win if you've outright said you'll collaborate with the traitors, because that's just too suspicious.
But what you do, right, like all of these strategies that you're seeing, even I keep calling him Sideshow Bob now, fucking Bolton Rob.
Chicago Rob, yeah.
Yeah. Even what he does in terms of throwing Bob the drag queen under the bus and all of this, it's strategies to last one more day to see what they can change the next day. It's always about survival. So you can't think 2-3 days ahead in that game. You just can't. You think, let me say this because I'll get to tomorrow and let's see what happens.
In the end, saying, "Traitors, if you're out there, I'll work with you," does make you pretty likely to be faithful at that point, but maybe likely to be recruited later. So in the end, it probably is meaning that he's likely to get murdered, but he probably knew he was going to get murdered anyway. So I don't know. I still find it fascinating.
I think one other interesting point that we see in this, and we've raised the issue before when we've discussed the Traitors US, is sort of the role of the importance of them knowing each other.
Yeah.
But in the past, it's been interesting because it's helped them do sort of accurate reads, being like, "Oh, actually, I know that person. They've got to be a traitor because that's just not their baseline behavior. This time, it actually results in a lot of wrong reads. A lot of people are saying, oh, Rob is like too good at games. Oh, Rob is not that kind of person. Rob would love to play the game. Rob cannot be a traitor. I think it's Zac Efron's brother, whose name I forgot.
Dylan, but I prefer Zac Efron's brother. It's so much
Zac
fun.
Efron's brother. Just like he keeps being like, oh yeah, Rob is like too good at games. He couldn't be a traitor. And it's just like, or when they're doing that whole like challenge, it was just like when Rob just entered the game and everyone's like, oh yeah, you're here to help us find traitors. No, what if he is a traitor? Like, why does he get an automatic assumption? And that's probably because of how they know him as a player in the past. I don't know. I find it really interesting how, for once, their previous knowledge of players is actually leading them astray.
Yeah, I like that. I also like the faction warfare that we get with the fact that they all know each other before. We saw this in season 2, and we're seeing it again a bit now, where it's like, cool, all the survivor people might stick together, all the housewives always stick together, people from Big Brother kind of do. And it's like, I like that because it kind of gives it this feeling of like, oh, there's 5 of us, 4 of them, let's work the numbers a little bit. I think it's quite an interesting way to play.
On this one, the housewives stick together, as in they share the plane on the way back because they're all gone 2 days in. Yeah,
You're so deep. That is funny.
All right, we've talked enough about the traitors. Then let's have a quick moment to chat about the faithfuls, because we don't see them very much, but I think there's a few personalities that come out of there. I mean, I'll be honest. I think that where I described them initially is a lot of them are kind of mediocre at the way they're playing the game. They're just there, and I think a lot of them are there to be on TV and to be entertaining. They're not necessarily all the players. And then we get people who actually are players like Wes. Wes obviously is sort of a legend of the challenge. He's a game player, and he's probably making madder moves. He's probably more interesting. I don't know. How can we rate the performance of the faithfuls? How do we do that? I know we don't see much of them. Is there even scope to give them a sort of rating?
Zac Efron's brother. He's the best faithful I've seen so far.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. He got rid of Bob. He was the one who started the whole Bob drag queen thing.
And you will also forever stan Rob, despite Rob being a traitor. He's the biggest. This year, in my notes, I thought actually Zac Efron's brother was the detrimental faithful, the useful idiot that you have every year, because he's coming so strong for Rob that I'm just like, you can't, like, there's no need to come out so strongly about anyone in this game.
Yeah, it's quite hard to watch, isn't it? The way he's just like completely drunk the Kool-Aid, the Sideshow Bob Kool-Aid.
The Los Angeles Rob, yeah.
The triple threat that is the Bambis, right? Gabby, Nikki, and Chriselle.
Yeah.
I think Gabby's fantastic. Some of the faces she pulls rival only Carolyn in sort of like hilarious American faces. Nikki Bella from the wrestling is great. Although in this she's called Nikki Garcia, which I guess is her real name. Don't need a real name. Just call her Nikki Bella, for God's sake. And then Gabby's great. Nikki, very much nothing, but useful for the traitors because she is suspected. And then Chriselle, again, not very much. But the 3 of them together have called themselves the Bambis, and they've made themselves a bit of a power group, and that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I just wish that Gabby had put more together with that the MIPS thing. And then when Zac Efron's brother went in there and had a look around, like he so nearly found the coffin. That those two, if they'd worked together and really linked it together, could have definitely found and put an end to Danielle there.
Can we have a shout out can we have like a little opinion share of the only British person in there? Because there's always a token British person.
Yeah, token British.
So Ivor, I like Ivor. I think he's a decent player. He's a decent player. He spreads around the right sort of news, I think.
I don't know. I'm afraid he's got absolutely nothing on John Burkow.
Oh, no, nothing on John, but...
Absolutely nothing.
I'll tell you the other 2 faithfuls who I'm really keen on would be Fergus and the new dog.
Oh, yes. Forever faithfuls. Fergus. Oh, Fergus.
Fergus hammering in nails, occasionally rearranging bits and pieces. He's up to so much. He's so busy. Alan mentions him occasionally. And then the dog, who's just beautiful. Where's this dog come from?
I know.
Alan's wardrobe is amazing. Did you see the jacket that he wore with a heart that was like his skin underneath? Like there was no material there.
Oh, it's the crown he wore in that like challenge in church. I thought was like sensational,
and a hoop dress, like an amazing hoop dress at one point. Yeah, some really cool outfits, but still not quite as good as Bob's, annoyingly.
I'm afraid. I don't think anyone's going to beat Bob anytime soon. I'm afraid.
What do we feel about Alan then? I mean, because he was intolerable in series 1. Series 2, he was a bit better.
I really like him this season.
I like him, but I guess I like him as a person. But I suspect the way he's hosting this, I'm just not the target audience for this. This is meant for like over the top Americans who don't know what, like, who couldn't put Scotland on the map.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's almost like in the UK version, we all joke about it being Claudia's castle, but in the US version, they fully believe it's Alan Cummings' house. there's something, yeah, slightly like hammy, and he loves it. And I don't hate it as much as I did. He doesn't chew on the word dollars like he did in the previous
Murder.
Yeah, he's getting better. He's slowly getting better.
Yeah. Right. Let's think about the future then. I mean, we're going to be back soon enough to discuss episode 6, 7, and 8. And we finished episode 5 with very divided traitors. How do we think the series go from there? Do we think the Faithfuls have a chance of winning? Do we think the current traitors have a chance of winning? I personally think it's probably going to be a recruited traitor that ends up winning.
Yeah.
I think Bob, the Biggest Loser, is going to win as a traitor.
Well, the clue's in the name, so you can't. He's the biggest loser.
No, but I think if he will get murdered because he's such a good faithful, like people believe he's a faithful. He's not a good faithful, but people believe he's a faithful. He'll get murdered because he will never get banished around the round table, or he gets recruited and just sails to the final. That's the only way I can see him surviving, but I really like him.
I'm going to go for, a traitor's win, but someone who we haven't seen yet. I'm just going to pick a name out of the hat, Brittany.
I'm going to go with a faithful gets recruited to be a traitor and wins as a traitor. And for me, that's probably going to be Wes.
Yeah, Wes could do it, couldn't he?
Oh, Wes, yeah, he'd be great.
Wes could really surprise us.
Wes is Ginger.
Yeah, Ginger Wes. I like
Ginger
him.
Wes.
Wait, how many people do you think has saved his number as Ginger Wes in their phone?
Just one, Ivan.
Ginger.
I like Wes, and I think he's moving like a little bit mad in a really interesting way. So I look forward to seeing what he's got to offer in the next 3 episodes. Should we come back then to discuss episodes 6, 7, and 8 of the Traitors US?
Yes, please.
No, I know. We'll be back very soon to discuss episodes 6, 7, and 8. Then, in the meantime, if you like this episode, please leave us a comment, a 5-star review, a like. As always, we love to hear from you. But until then, my name is Ryan, and you can follow me at Boston Ryan.
Oh, my name's Will. You can follow me at Sideshow Bob.
I'm Ivan. You can follow me at Listen to the Synopses, Edgar.
And from all of us here, it's see you very soon, and goodbye.
Bye, Edgar. Bye.